just a quick update. I am working on my my restreaming, my streaming and my live streaming again. And you know what? I just remembered. Let me do this real quick. Add my Instagram. So we're gonna try this again. All right. Bam. All right. So here I am. Let's see what's going on. Okay. I don't even know. So many weird things are happening here. I've not done a live stream in quite a while, not made a video in quite a while. I guess the last time I made one was like right when the war in the Ukraine broke out. That was at the beginning of the year, nearly at the beginning of the year. And it's been heavy duty, you know, so much has been going on. You know, just this month, the Queen of England passed away, which is kind of insane because she's been a fixture in the world. And, I'm kind of, I just feel like the world is changing. And I've been feeling this shift taking place over the course of years. I mean, like, it's been my life I've seen shifting. I've seen so many other people's lives shifting. I've seen the world turning. The landscape of the world is shifting. The weather's changing. The economic situation is changing. We're seeing conflicts in different places. We're seeing the end of conflicts in certain places. We're seeing all kinds of different things. We've seen pandemics or plandemics. We've seen the Capitol building being assaulted, essentially ransacked by angry, disgruntled citizens. We're seeing the trials for that right now. We've seen so much, and it's kind of trippy, like we've also seen the passing of very some celebrities or some influential people. And the greatest generation is fading away. And the greatest generation is like that's like my next to the generation that I'm incarnated in right now. It's like that's my generation. I've spent almost all my life has been devoted to studying history and World War II, for instance, mostly. And of course, it's been so much more in the last 43 years. Gosh, I can't believe it's been 43 years. I remember the 40th anniversary of World War II, and then the 50th anniversary of World War II, and then the 60th anniversary of World War II, and then the 70th anniversary of World War II. And it's just been, it's been 81 years since almost 80 years since the attack on Pearl Harbor, almost 81 years since the attack on Pearl Harbor. And I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii, which is just miles away from that historic location. So here I am sitting here looking at my picture instead of looking here at the camera. Hi, here's my finger. Hello. Still got to get used to this. So I am sorry about that. I'm out of practice, and I don't know if I ever got into practice, but I hope to be doing more of this and connecting with you all. Let me just slow down a minute, think about what else I want to share with you since I'm here in this ramble. So what have I been up to? Well, I've been up to relationship. I've been really immersed in relationship. I've been involved with an amazing woman who is she's the best of the best for me. Everybody has their person, and I really believe that at least at this point in my life, she's my person. And I've been doing what I can to support her and her adventures, her working on herself and doing what she's doing. And then she's been a great reflection and resource for me in my healing, supporting me in my journey with some real exquisite reflection and feedback. Not always in a forum kind of manner, but in a relational kind of manner, which means breaks in rapport and then processing and then repair. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for her presence in my life and her love. And I've been doing, I've really healed a lot in the time that we've been together, or the time we've been relating, and our relationship has been kind of an evolutionary process of developing closeness and trust, and navigating the trauma when it shows up, that happens when two people are in intimate relationship. Um, it's been really rewarding, and I'm just so grateful to um, to have her in my life. And what else? What else? So I'm I'm still working through getting in rapport with my injuries. In fact, let me just tell you, thanks to her, or my relationship with her, I have been able to connect to myself in an unprecedented way. Um, I have been dealing with complex post traumatic stress as a result of various traumas all of my life. And it really hit me the worst after I came back from Iraq, my second tour in Iraq, which was like a blast, dude. I mean, like, I know of course, it's blasts every freaking day, every day, but it was an amazing experience for me. And I felt so fulfilled doing the work there, exhausting, but I had never known so much success. So come back to the United States, to my family in 2009, and basically my brain is scrambled, and I've been spending the last 14 years fixing or working on myself. Well, the last 2 years have been amazing because I've actually gotten a lot of my needs met, in the way of reflecting back exactly, or more precisely, how my injuries, or how the injuries I suffered, are expressed through my personality or my behaviors. And I've not had that level of honesty and direct reflection before, ever in my life. Not even my best friend. She's been very kind and sees me clearly, but stays the hell out. And we're not in an intimate relationship like that. We're not boyfriend, girlfriend. So not a big deal. We're just platonic friends. Not just platonic. Like, more than we're like tight, best friends. And we've been fellow travelers on this journey for nearly, like, for, yeah, about 9 years. Anyway, so trauma causes trauma causes dissociation. Dissociation is when the psyche takes a break, splits from the body, says, "Up, this is too much for me, can't inhabit the body, I gotta get out of here, let me go away." And it's kind of this fragmentation process that takes place over and over and over again. Each time a person, obviously, I need to get off here soon if I'm yawning. My apologies. Each time a person experiences a traumatic event that their brain cannot make meaning of their experience, there's what's called a fragmentation. And that fragmentation creates a part. This is called the internal family systems, or parts theory. And so what happens is, these fragmented cells, parts, end up showing up at different times when there's a similar situation that is reminiscent of that original traumatic event. And so what happens is something happens when I was 7. That 7-year-old shows up because it looks just like, or very nearly like, that event that happened when I was 7. Even though I may be 50 years old, I'm 50 years old. So 43 years ago, let's just say something happened to me. I was traumatized by it. What's going on? I can't make meaning of this. Fragmentation. Fast forward, something happens very similar to that original injury, psychological or spiritual, emotional injury, and now that little part shows up to try and figure it out and resolve it, so that the limbic system, or the critter brain, reptilian brain, can and can resolve it so that it can survive. Body's still alive. I'm still alive. Brain doesn't know what to do with the situation. Doesn't know time. I'm working through it, and then there's also, like, imagine like a banquet. Think of Da Vinci's Last Supper, and you have all these apostles. Oops, sorry, all these apostles sitting around the table, and then there's the in the center of it is, the Christ, right? And he's sitting there, and he's got everybody around him. Well, imagine that Christ being in a healthy person or an integrated person is the wise adult self. And the wise adult self is running a show. He's the boss, or she's the boss, in charge of all those disciples or apostles that are the fragmented selves. And so the idea is to work on healing the traumas and moving them through the body, exercising those traumas through the body, so there's no stuckness in it, so that when these situations show up that are reminiscent of the original trauma, that you have a wise adult self that is in management and leadership, or of those other parts. Otherwise, what happens is we become reactive, because a child would be reactive, and um, based on an emotional experience, either anger or fear, or whatever, anxiety or worry. And that's what happens. So I've been working on integrating myself and bringing myself and my psyche up to present time, as I heal these fragmented parts. And most recently, within the last since July, I've experienced and benefited tremendously um, from MDMA therapy. MDMA, or what is known as ecstasy, is as a psychedelic drug. And I can tell you, as a soldier, in the Army, with zero tolerance for substances, and never been really a drug addict or into using any kind of substance. Just never appealed to me. Um, this stuff is really, it's a miracle. It's a miracle in that I have a new relationship with my body. I feel like I'm just a few months old, actually. I'm learning how to relate to my body in a different way. That my muscles are less tense. I feel like I'm more grounded, more connected to the earth when I walk around. My center of gravity is lower. I'm not up like this, like up out of myself. I'm actually down and relaxed. Um, I still have some hyper vigilance. I still have some a ways to go. I don't know if I'll ever be fully cured of the trauma, fully healed of the trauma. I don't know if I'll ever. I know I'll never be able to work again a regular job. I'll never be able to work a job again. It's not going to happen. Um, by the time, going the rate I'm going, by the time if I were to keep going this way, by the time I get there, I'd be like, too late, David. So, um, but I really am working to gain greater capacity and greater health, even though, I'm essentially a disabled veteran. And yeah, there's all kinds of symptoms that come with it, like hypervigilance is one. So easily startled, loud noises or abrupt noises, or uh, with a really exaggerated response, not like, oh, okay, but like, oh, like that. That's really exaggerated response. It's really like a startle. And then clarity of thought, struggle with that. Attention span, struggle with that. My memory is affected. I used to be a lot sharper than what I am. Mm. And yeah, and also like more intense, more aggressive even. I was just recently brought to my attention by my therapist that I sounded angry. There was an angry inflection to my voice. I was like, oh, really. That's the other thing too, is like being open to feedback now. Like I'm able to receive feedback and actually look at myself. And I think the reason why I wasn't able to do that before was two things. One is I wasn't connected to myself. In order for me to all right, I'll finish up. In order for me to know that I exist, I need another person. I would have conversations or be in social situations and really on a certain level, not really be included, not include myself. Other people would be interacting with me, but I wouldn't know that on a certain level, and I wouldn't be able to attune to other people to really gauge their responses or to know that I'm even being heard or to know that I'm even acknowledged. And so, even so, even though I'd have like someone say something positive about me, oh, wow, David, compliment, compliment, compliment. I'd be like, it would just go right by me or I'd reject it. And now I'm learning to like take it in and bring it into myself and hold it. And it's a gift. And so own it. Own the gift of their compliment. Own the gift of that reflection. Own the gift of that validation. Own the gift of that uh, uh, appreciation. Own the gift of the love being given to me. And it's new. It's very, very new. And learning how to relate with myself. Just imagine an infant, a newborn, up to maybe a few months old, couple like maybe a month or two old, 2 months old. Yeah, still unable to roll over, or maybe just you lay them on their stomach and they're able to hold their head up, unable to roll over really, just kicking the legs back and forth, waving the arms and the fingers. That's about where I'm at. That's about where I'm at. Uh, oh, I have a body. What is this thing I'm in? And I think that's a great analogy for my experience right now. Even though obviously I have adult intelligence and all this other stuff, but on a certain level, when it comes to knowing myself or knowing my experience more accurately or from a somatic sense, from my body sense, that's about where I'm at, like a newborn or an infant. And there's feelings that come up with it. There's grief and there's anger. I mean, anger is part of grief. So there's anger and there's sorrow. And then I've also had experiences of flashbacks to trauma from before I could even use my words, what they call pre-verbal trauma. About 3 weeks to almost a month ago, I guess, I had an episode where I was in relationship with my girlfriend, and something happened, and there was a break in rapport, and we kind of got into an argument or something like that, or contesting realities, differences of realities, and contesting realities, and I found myself in that typical historic stance of being aggressively defensive. I call it an aggressive defense, in defense of myself. In defense of what? In defense of shame. In defense of being unworthy and therefore rejected or abandoned. And then in a moment, I had this awareness. This is what I'm talking about, being able to see myself. I had this awareness of what I was doing, and I stopped. I was just saying, I saw myself, I'm about to go into aggressive defense. I'm going to stop. And in the space, and I'm going to use my hands to kind of give you an idea of like spatially where it was for me. Like literally, there is this aggressive defense here off to my right cheek. And then over here was this tremendous sorrow. And then the space in between here was a sense of overwhelm. And I started to collapse and I started to shake. My body started to shake, and usually it starts with my jaw. A lot of my trauma comes from the oral and anal stages of my development, and then of course from the abuse that I experienced, the molestation that I experienced as a child growing up. And so my jaw would start to drop, and I carry a lot of trauma in my jaw. It'd be tight and tense jowl muscles, and so it starts to drop. And I notice my jaw just relax and go open, and then my lip would quiver, my jaw would shake, and I think my eyes would probably get wide a little bit too. And then my arms would just shake at my sides, and I would not be able to. I'd be in a kind of like a freeze. My body would be rigid, save for the shaking. Could not move really. Could not walk. Wasn't ambulatory. Just standing there in this case. And then just a shaking. And if I can't speak, that tells me that it's from a time before I was able to speak. So it's an early trauma. If I can't move, it means I'm really frozen in terror. That's a somatic, subconscious, amygdala-inspired trauma response, or response or reaction to danger. And it lasted for probably about a half hour. And then eventually I came out of it with some coaching from my girlfriend, who's amazing. God, she's amazing. You'll see more of her in the future. There will come a time when we will like show up together. But right now she can remain an enigma. She's amazing though. Did I mention she's amazing? And she's a psychotherapist. So yay for me. I don't know how I did that, but I did it. I landed me a good one, a great one. And she was able to use tools of her trade to coach me and coax me out of my flashback. And I'm able to narrate my experience to you. Not narrate, but to reiterate my experience to you. Retell. Can I find an adverb? Or a verb? Can I find a verb? Anyway, I'm here telling you my tale, my story about my flashback. And I have to say, what I thought a flashback was what we saw in the movies. And of course, it looks like that because cinemagraphically, how else are they going to depict it but flashback to a scene in the past? So here I am, like not knowing what a flashback is, thinking that I'm supposed to have some sort of hallucination or supposed to see some person out of my past or situation out of my past. That's not what it is. A flashback is a somatic experience, or it can be a somatic, a feeling, or a recreation, self-generated recreation based on an external stimulus of a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. And that's what's been happening with me. I've been having flashbacks. But at the same time, what's so good about this experience is that rather than being a defensive behavior, which would be avoiding the connection to the trauma response, I actually had the trauma response. And so what happens is when we have the trauma response come up and we're able to get to some part of ourselves has a management, like the Christ in the picture, right, is there saying, calm down, calm down. This is what it is. Then learning happens on the nervous system level. And the mind, the brain, not the mind, but the brain says, I guess it's the mind, the subconscious mind. The brain is an organ, the mind, the subconscious mind, the animal mind, the reptilian mind, brain, the somatic, the body intelligence says, we just had a learning experience. We survived that. It's now resolved. It's like unresolved, I don't know, parking tickets or something, unresolved invoices, unpaid, whatever it is, something that's been hanging over your head for whatever, and finally gets taken care of, so where it's not that thing on the list of 100 million things that need to be resolved. And so my body intelligence learned something as a result of that flashback and of the other flashbacks. Learned that I can survive it. And I'm sharing this with you because like this is what I've been up to. And maybe if you are having these kinds of experiences, or you're dealing with trauma, maybe this might be useful to you, helpful to you. So maybe what I'll do right now is go through an exercise of like what happens in a trauma response like that, or a flashback. Well, for one, if I can remember that it's a flashback, if I could be aware of it, and I have to say, because I have a dual diagnosis, I have complex PTSD that I'm dealing with, and then I also have what's called dissociative disorder, not otherwise specified. Dissociative disorder, not otherwise specified, which means that I check out. And a dissociation can be anything from just like a blank stare and an absence of attention to a full-blown like flashback, like what I said, which is very extreme. So that if I can be associated into myself and my experience and tell myself that it's a flashback. Now I want to inform you that the whole time I'm not talking, my mind is working and I have words, but the words in my head are not able to translate into physical action of my mouth, tongue, lips, and breath and jaw to make language, not even really sound. I'm just like, I know that looks ridiculous, right? Someone's going to like do a screenshot of my mouth open and make a meme or something. Then I'll be famous for 10 seconds and that'll be that. And I'll be made fun of like 100 million places. Wow, that sounds egotistical. I hope that doesn't happen. Never mind. Strike that from the record. That sounds very much like placing an inappropriate importance on myself. I'm not that important. I'm just a person who is healing. So remembering or being aware of, I am in the middle of a flashback. That's good to know. Kind of like a pilot flying an aircraft who loses control or something happens and the airplane gets flipped around or loses lift, flying in a straight line or flying with airflow, and then all of a sudden the wings lose efficiency and it goes into a dive. Spins, tumbles. The idea is to get airspeed so that the wings are working again, and then you can pull up and make right altitude. Well, it's the same thing here. I've gone into a nosedive, into dissociation or flashback. I have to orient myself, look around, literally in this case, look around and notice things. In other words, activate parts of my brain that have been pushed aside because I'm in this flashback experience. Look around, start, if I can talk, name different things. Notice different colors. I see the white here, the blue there. Notice different shapes. Notice different items. Then it's about activating the sight and then sound. What am I hearing? Do I hear any noise? Well, where I was at, there were chickens. I can hear chickens. Boy, are they talkative. Clock, 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 clock. There's a reason why they make those jokes. Cackling hens, man. Those girls, they like to talk a lot. So that sort of thing. And then also physical sensation. if I can squeeze my hands and notice the tension in my muscles, if I can press my feet down on the floor, if I'm sitting, feel the pressure of the weight of my body on the seat below me, if I can stomp my feet or move my arms and move myself out of freeze, I'm activating different parts of my brain, and it takes me out of that, and because it requires more more brain work, more of my brain to do these different things, and therefore it kind of pulls me out of being engulfed in this experience of flashback. So she helped me with that, and that's been a game changer for me. But they're going to happen again. It's going to happen again. Something's going to trigger me, and it's going to happen again. But you know what? It's not a big deal. It doesn't have to be a big deal, because now I have tools and awareness, and I can do something about it. Instead of crashing and burning as I did in the past, dissociating and being checked out for an hour. Yes, an hour. I was catatonic for an hour back in last year, in June of last year, in a flashback of some sort of trauma response that I can't even explain. But my body did what it did. I was lying on the floor, could not speak, could not move. Maybe like twitch a finger. Who knows what that was all about? I have no idea. But I wasn't able to come out of it, not for quite a while, until I was with my girlfriend. Were we girlfriend and boyfriend then? No, not yet. But we were on our way. But I really had crashed and burned and was not well, not good. So I'm getting better, but I have a ways to go. It's also healing the trauma, is also orienting myself to being an adult man, as opposed to living my life through the filter of a traumatized 12-year-old child. I experienced a lot of trauma when I was 11, and 12. A lot of trauma in school, at home, neighbors. And it was like one of the darkest times of my life. One of the darkest times of my life. I have to say, life decisions about how to relate with the world around me were formulated at that time. Very important ones. And it was a very painful time. Another flashback is when I was a few weeks ago, I was at my son's school, which happened to be my school when I was his age. Oh, it's a Hillview Junior High School. Yep, I just said it. Hillview Junior High School. And I experienced a lot of trauma while I was there. I was in a chaotic home with a lot of turbulence. My parents' marriage was in distress. And I was being sexually abused by a neighbor. And so that distress that I was experiencing was being expressed in classrooms. I was overwhelmed. I was experiencing fear or terror of speaking out because of my religious upbringing around the sexual abuse. I was angry, and everything was out of control, and there was nothing I can do. And so behaviorally, I acted out, which is when a child acts out, they're really crying out. So if you're a parent and you're like, why is my child doing this? Well, there's something going on. Your child is most likely or quite possibly in distress of some sort. And I'm not talking about, okay, they did something and, you give them some corrective action of, a reprimand or some sort of correction, and then they throw a fit because they're upset. But when it's a chronic situation, it's happening all the time, and they're like, oh, you get reports from teachers and it's, oh, they have behavioral problems. Oh, behavior. Well, this is a child in distress. This is a child with needs not being met. And this is a child who's actually making strong, albeit abstract, requests for assistance from the adults in their life. And we know that today that things are a lot more stressful for children, especially even younger children, with the social media and peer pressures which are accentuated by social media, where you have children who are 11 years old committing suicide, for instance, or attempting to. That's serious. That's serious distress. I don't know why I didn't think of it when I was 11. I imagine that if I did think of it as an option, I might have even tried it, to be honest. But yeah, so flashback at my son's school. It's back to school night, and we step into a classroom. It's like one classroom for every 10 minutes or something like that in each classroom. The teacher gives a little spiel about it, any questions, and then, okay, move to the next classroom. Well, we go to this one classroom, and son of a gun. Now, I've been in these classrooms, some of these classrooms, as a student, as an 11-year-old student, 4 decades ago, right? I walk into this classroom, go over to the row of desks, and wouldn't you know, it's where trauma happened. And I just can feel myself begin to dissociate and feeling sick to my stomach and dizzy. And that's the nervous system feeling overwhelmed. I can recognize it now. And so how did I take care of myself? Well, I didn't go into full flashback, but I certainly felt unsafe, even though I'm a 50-year-old man. I'm there with my 12-year-old son and his mother, my ex-wife. And it's 2022, not 1984, 83, whatever it was, 82, 83. And I'm still having these experiences of not feeling safe. That teacher who traumatized me, I won't even get into the details, but it was very traumatic. Man's probably dead. You know what? I don't even remember his name, except his name was Dudley. I remember his first name was Dudley. I wish I could remember his name. He was a half-deaf World War II vet. He was an artilleryman, so like his eardrums were blown, and he talked loud like this and very authoritative. And he was frightening to me. He was frightening to me. I was intimidated by him. I was intimidated by him. I was afraid of him. And here's what happened: I was in a state of overwhelm and panic. And he came over and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And he took my notebook, my binder, and he dropped it on the floor with a smack. And that was it, man. So a couple of weeks ago, I go into this classroom and it's like, I can't stay there. I'm like, I look, oh my God, this is where it happened. It's like a person who's been assaulted, beaten up, or raped. And you go back, here's the place where it happened. Can you imagine? For those of you who've unfortunately have had those experiences, I think you can understand. So I present well, right? I look like I'm okay, but inside I'm like a person who's learning how to walk after having their legs shattered, being in a hospital bed, and then a wheelchair. And when I came back from Iraq, it was like internally, like a person who's been burned. 100% of their body's been burned. Can you imagine? Hair burned off, like kind of like, think Anakin Skywalker's Darth Vader, right? Star Wars, not so handsome. That or Freddy Krueger, even like, ugh, gross, right? But that's how my soul felt on the inside in 2009 when I came back for many years, for several years, and unable to function, unable to even be able to explain myself and what I'm experiencing, unable to see the light or a future or have hope. So here I am now. I've done a lot of work on me, continue to do a lot of work. What's a reward? What's the fruits of my labor? My relationship my relationship with my girlfriend, my relationship with my ex-wife, my relationship with my children, because none of these people have any animosity or anger toward me, or we have a very loving, I have loving sons who are loving brothers to one another. And I have, and they love their dad. And I'm sure, if they hit midlife and they find themselves stuck and needing to do work, the older two anyway, maybe the younger one too, but as well, but they'll be able to do the work, and they can say, I had a good relationship with my dad for most of my life, most of his life, my life with him. They can say that because I've done the work, and I'm doing the work. It's a lifelong journey. So those are two different examples of flashbacks that I've had, dissociative flashbacks. One is a slight dissociation, one is a dramatic dissociation, and well, actually, there's that third one, that other one that I mentioned from June of last year, where I really had I went into some straight up cannot move kind of flashback trauma response. Well, I'm feeling fatigued, and maybe I'll be able to go to bed at it's 2:20 a.m. here Pacific time, this September 19th, 2022. And I should be sleeping right now, and I will go give that a shot. And whenever you watch this, if you watch it, hopefully you've stuck around. 41 minutes. I doubt it. I doubt if anyone's still here. I doubt if anyone's still here, but it is a late night ramble. What the heck, right? And if you got anything out of it, great. If you haven't, that's okay. If you turn this off, if you come back to this and you fast forwarded it to the end just to see what the hell I said, wow, good on you. Bless your heart. I really got to learn how to make these things shorter, like 10 minutes or less. Well, about 10 minutes. This will probably, I don't know if anyone's going to even watch this. People are just so busy, they don't have time for this kind of thing. But it's good practice for me to be on the live stream. It's even if I'm just talking to myself, right? So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for being here with me, and take care. Until next time.